We got a good show for you today. Today we have Victor Martinez. He's coming on before his June 24th fight against Trevor Peak. Let's get right into the video. I guess, Victor, my first question for you is how'd you get into MMA?
Dang. I got into MMA probably back in 2000, like 2008, 2009. I was like a junior in high school, gonna be a senior, and a friend of mine introduced me to it, and I saw my first fight, which was Roger Huerta versus Clay Guida. That was the
Yeah.
first fight that I had ever seen, and ever since then, uh, well, ever since I saw it, I wanted to try it out. I wasn't thinking about fighting. I just wanted to train, and I found like a jiu-jitsu school here nearby. At
Mhm.
that time, MMA here in where I'm from was like there was probably like one gym, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Jiu-jitsu though, it was like starting to grow here. It's probably like two or three gyms. Like I can remember like two or three gyms, and there was one in the city that I live in, and I just went by and one day and I asked if I could join, and they told me, yeah, just keep coming every day and train, you know. And I was like, okay. So then I just kept up with it, and I was always training every day. And then I kind of started doing like the stand up part of it and
Yeah.
everything. And I was like, man, you know what? I want to give this a shot and just try it out, you know.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm a huge UFC fan, and I never got into MMA at all. And my buddy, he did it, and I just started going like I'm a beginner, learning all of it. But it's kind of cool to see how the sport's really grown. For you, was there any idols you looked up to in the sport?
Well, once I started like watching the more like the MMA and the UFC fights and all that, I like BJ Penn. BJ
Yeah.
Penn, he was somebody that I liked. I liked his like his fighting style, you know.
Hmm.
I like the boxing part. You know, I like the way he would box. Frankie Edgar was another one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching him. Um, when I first started watching, I would say those two were probably the ones that I liked watching. You know, it was cool
Yeah.
when they had to fight each other all those three times and stuff. I enjoy those fights.
Yeah. No. So your nickname's the Brick. How'd you get that nickname?
A friend of mine that trains too, he like he started calling me that Victor Brick, and at first I didn't want I didn't want it, right, because
Hmm.
I mean you got to live by that
Yeah.
name if you're gonna name yourself. And then
Yeah.
I got my first KO win in my second fight. I got no my third fight I got my first win. So then I got a knockout that fight. And ever since then, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with it. You know, I like it, Victor Break. So I just stayed with it. Yeah.
No, it's a great nickname. I saw that and I was like, dude, I have to ask about it. Can you talk about your upcoming fight with Trevor Peak?
Yeah. So man, it's crazy because a lot of people had been talking to me about that after, because he fought the same night that I did my debut. Well, he did his debut the
Yeah.
same night,
Hmm.
and he was warming up right in front of me, and like we were both in the same room and stuff, and so I had already seen him, and I already knew who he was. It's just by seeing him that first time, and then he was gonna fight somebody that I fought back like in the regional scene
Yeah.
in Combate Americas. He fought Eric Gonzalez, and so I was interested in that fight. I was like, man, I want to see how Eric does. I had never seen Trevor Peak
Yeah.
fight, you know, and
Yeah.
I had never like even heard of him until that day. And then after that fight, after that event happened, people were saying, man, you and Trevor Peak would be a fight and this and that.
Mm.
And I was like, well, I mean, we'll see what happens, you know, like who they give me
Yeah.
next. And it just so happened it was him, you know, and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, like crazy how it's funny how things work out like that.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. You were on Dana White's Contender Series. Can you talk about your experience with that?
Yeah. The Dana White, man, it was nerve wracking, you know,
Yeah.
because it was like, all right, this is it. I win this fight, get the contract, or if I don't win this fight, I don't get the contract, you know. So of course there's a lot on the line for that one. But man, I felt really good when I got into the cage and stuff. Uh Everything went so like everything was perfect, I guess you can say, you know, for me. Everything went good. My training camp was good for that fight. I was excited, I was motivated because like I said, I wanted the contract.
Mhm.
um and I knew it was gonna be a good fight because I had been studying
Yeah.
my opponent, and it was, you know, we went at it for 3 rounds straight, and it was definitely a tough fight. Yeah.
Yeah, when fight weeks, going along, can you kind of talk about what goes into that? Because I know, like, I hear people talk about like there's media and you're cutting weight, and there's like all this stuff that goes into it. How do you like stay focused on that fight with all the stuff going around too?
Well, since I'm barely starting, like there was not too much of that for
Yeah.
me, you know.
Uh,
But I mean, there was, you know. I just try to keep my weight low,
yeah.
so it would be less stress on me. Thinking while I'm doing the interviews, thinking like, man, I still gotta go cut this weight. I
Yeah.
still gotta wait. And like when I was done with like the media stuff,
Hmm.
man, I did like 30 minutes, and then I was on weight
Yeah.
of cutting. You know, so the weight cut wasn't for these past couple of fights. My weight cut hasn't been an issue at all.
Yeah. I always like to do this. I like to choose a random fight in your career and see if you can tell me about it. So you had a fight in 2011 in McAllen, Texas. Can you tell me about anything? Do you remember that?
2011,
Yeah, it was your second win in your career.
against Michael Lido.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Michael Lido. Damn, that was a while back.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I knew he was from Austin. He came down over here to STFC when STFC was still around, South
Yeah.
Texas Fighting Championship. That
Yeah.
was like the league here in the Valley, and that's where I usually did my fights. Before they stopped having events, and then so I was 1-2 before I fought him. He was like a karate stance. He was more like a karate guy, you know.
Yeah.
He damn, like I really don't know like what to say, right? But uh we had like a 3 round, I think it was 3 rounds that we went. It was a
Yeah.
while back, so I don't really remember. I think it was
Yeah.
3 rounds, and I ended up getting the TKO win.
Yeah.
Uh I mean, it was a good fight. I feel like at that time I still was still learning and still like putting everything together, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, I go back sometimes and I see those fights and I'm like, damn, like it's crazy how you see yourself progress, you know, and get better. So, but I mean, I'm just glad I got the win, and from there I went on a little streak. I
Yeah.
think I went 4 fight win streak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess through all these like, fights, what's the biggest thing you had to like learn, I guess, and improve upon?
How to like blend it all in together, you know. Like I had never uh man, I started off with jiu-jitsu when I
Hmm.
was 17 years old, you know, so I had never even done any type of martial arts before that. And so like learning one thing was hard, and then I was like, okay, now you got to learn all these other stuff and just learn how
Hmm.
to blend it in. So but I think after every fight I always like I showed something better the next one, and then
Hmm.
something I would always learn something, you know. And I just saw myself growing with the sport, and well, yeah, I mean that's pretty much how I've learned this whole time, just trial and error pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you've had like the opportunity to fight in a bunch of different, places. What's the most memorable or like your favorite place you fought?
Shit that I fought. Yeah. Man, I mean, I would have to say my, even though it didn't go my way and stuff, you know, I would have to say my UFC debut.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never gonna forget that. I wish I would have won, you know, but I
Hmm.
mean, it's all good. I'm not gonna forget that experience. Like, I mean, everything was good that week too. You know, I enjoyed it all. Everything was cool. You know, to be, I usually corner my coach Diego, Carlos Diego,
Yeah.
and uh, and I'm there with him and stuff. But now I have to have the role switched. You know, I did everything that he usually does, and he was there to support me, and so I'm never gonna forget my debut. Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like a dream of yours, and it's amazing that happened. For what would you say would be one of the toughest wins for you in your career? Does anything come to mind?
I would think my toughest fight, the contender series one.
Hmm.
Uh, damn, I forgot his name. What's his name? Damn, I
No,
just went.
yeah, you're good. I guess my question with that is like, there's a lot of pressure with that, obviously, with like a contract. How do you like manage the stress and just like go out there and compete and win?
Man, bro, like that week, everything just went so good for me. My wake up was good. I was telling my coach, like, man, I feel good. I feel like it's everything's coming to place, falling into place, good for me. And uh it's just reminding myself, trying to stay positive the whole week. And I mean, yeah, I'll have my moments where like all these like negative thoughts come in, like, oh, but what if this happens and this happens? And then I'm just kind of like, nah, I gotta get that out, and just think positive and and think about what I'm gonna do, not about what he's gonna do. So I mean, I was just trying to just do that and just to keep a positive mindset and it pulled me through the whole fight. Even when I had to, I know he knocked me down in the first
Yeah,
round, and I came back second and third.
yeah. Couple of fun questions and then finish off. Have you planned your walkout song yet?
No, I haven't. I was actually thinking about that today. I was in
Yeah,
the morning. I went to go train, and I was like, man, what song? What am I gonna work out to this time? I usually don't decide until like closer to the fight,
yeah,
because I'll kind of like whatever hits that camp, and I'm always playing on my phone or
yeah,
something, or when I go run, if I'm
yeah.
always playing a certain song, I try to use that.
Is there like a deadline for that? That like you have to have it in by like this certain time or
Yeah, it's probably like 2 weeks,
yeah.
2 weeks before the fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite takedown, I guess?
I would say double, just a double leg takedown. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then favorite TV show? You got one?
Shit, every TV show.
Or it could be movie if that's easier.
Okay, movies. Man, I have a few. I'm real into comedy movies. I
Yeah.
like Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Knocked Up. I was watching that one
Yeah,
yesterday.
no, that's a hilarious one.
That's funny. That's a funny movie. I like Super Bad too. Super Bad's funny.
Yeah, you McLovin, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say those would be like if I want to watch something funny and I can't find nothing, I'll usually put those on.
Yeah. All right, last question. I always like finish off with it. It's a hard one. So when your career's over down the line, right? How do you want to be remembered?
Damn. Okay. Uh, Man, I want to be remembered through my fights, like that I never gave up. I always gave it 100%. And I know I didn't showcase that this last fight, but I will.
Yeah.
And I know I could have performed better than that. And I'm looking forward to this next fight, just to so people can start seeing me how that I want them to see me. I feel like I didn't really showcase too much this last fight, and they're coming up this next one in June. I'll be ready, and I'm gonna do that. So people can start to see me and recognize me for really who I am. Not like, man, I've been having to live with this last fight in my head for the past 2 months, or 3 months, and I'm just kind of like I need to make it right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I want everybody to remember me as uh like a tough fighter, somebody who never gave up and who would get in there and give it their all the time, win or lose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Victor, first of all, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I wish you best luck
Thank
in
you,
your
bro.
fight. I'll
Thank
be tuning in.
you.
And I hope to stay in touch and have you on again down the line. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
hit me up anytime. Hit me up. Let me know.
All right.
It's cool. I like that when people hit me up and they're like, hey, I'm starting this or I'm already starting this podcast. I'm like, hell yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I started there. Not with podcasts, but with fighting. I started
Yeah.
in the very bottom and shit. And I mean, if I could help somebody out and do something for them, I always will.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Victor. Thank you, man.
Yeah, bro, no problem. Have a good one.